Hi everybody, welcome to Fast 15 Flurry session 7. It's been quite a few months since I last recorded one of these, so I can take a little bit more time to slowly step through this section on tame and see how far we get. So let's start from here. So during the last session, we looked at this phrase tame, which means for the benefit or purpose or necessity of, and I identified 4 typical sentences which show that something is for the benefit or the purpose of something else. So in each of these cases, I want to establish what or who is the beneficiary, who is receiving the benefit, and what is the necessity or the provision or the benefit given, what service is being carried out. So for each of these examples, if I go through this, for the benefit of George, I bought some vegetables. So the benefit is being given to George, he's the beneficiary, and the necessity, the service, is bought vegetables. For B, in order to pass the exams, I must study more. So the benefit is passing the exams, and then the necessity or the service is studying more. This is an elevator for the elderly. So the people who are benefiting it are the elderly, and the necessity or the service is the elevator. And then finally, this is a book for fixing cars. The benefit is fixing cars, and the necessity or the service is the book. So in each case, there is either a noun in this beneficiary position or a verb. And the same thing for necessity as well. There could be a noun or a verb. So we've got potentially 4 different combinations of noun here or verb here, noun here or verb here. So this makes a difference as to how we construct the sentence, how we fit tame with the particles around it. So we'll put the benefit first, and then the necessity or the service comes afterwards with tame in the middle. And then we've got these particles in place here. This here means nothing, by the way. So if there is a noun as the benefit, then we need to put a no between the noun and tame. If the benefit or the service is a verb, then we don't put anything. And then after tame, if the noun is, if the necessity or the service is a noun, then we put no. And if it's a verb, sometimes there could be an adjective in the necessity or service, we put ni. Okay, so if you write this down, then it's easy to solve all of the problems going forwards. So to answer these questions, how to make them correctly. So the first one, George is the beneficiary. He is a noun. And the necessity or the service was to buy vegetables, which is clearly a verb. So it should be George-san no, because he is a noun, tame ni yasai o kaimashita. Let's see. George no tame ni yasai o kaimashita. Second one, in order to pass my exams, I must study more. So the passing of exams is a verb, even though we've got an object in there, the exams. But if the sentence is, or the subclause is passing the exam, so this is a verb. And then the I must study more, well, studying again is a verb type subclause. So this should be verb. So it should be shiken o gokaku suru tame ni motto benkyou shinakereba narimasen. Let's have a look. Shiken o gokaku suru tame ni motto benkyou shinakereba narimasen. Oops. This is an elevator for the elderly. So this is marked at the beginning of the sentence, kore ga. It's an elevator, so it's a noun. Sorry, the elderly are the beneficiaries. So this should be toshiori. They are a noun, so that's not. And then the elevator is also a noun, so this should be not here. So kore ga otoshiori no tame no elevator desu. This is an elevator for the elderly. And then finally, this is a book for fixing cars. So the benefit is fixing cars. This is a verb type subclause. And then the necessity or the provision is a book. So this is a noun. So, kuruma o naosu tame ni, for the purpose of fixing cars. Kuruma o naosu tame no, and then book, hon desu. Kore ga kuruma o naosu tame no hon desu. Okay, next subject is easy ways to remember how to make verbs into the potential form. This means the ability form. I'm going to start on the far right actually and work across because these are the easiest ones. For any verb to do, suru, or any verb which goes before suru, like benkyou suru, keiko suru, ryori suru, then we just put dekiru, replace suru with dekiru. Dekiru means to be able to. And then for kuru, to come, this changes to korareru or koraremasu in the polite form. So we just have to memorize these two because they are irregular. They change slightly differently to group 2 and group 1. For group 2 regular verbs, we change the ru to rareru. So for example, to eat, taberu, if I want to say I am able to eat, this becomes taberareru. And then of course, to turn this to the polite form, this is still a group 2 verb. We replace the ru with mas. So this becomes taberaremasu. Over to the more complex one, which is the group 1 verbs. There are basically 2 ways of doing this, and I would suggest we follow the green path. But if you memorize verbs in the mas form, by all means, you can quickly go on the yellow path. But starting with the infinitive iku, change the suffix of the u to I to make the mas form first, ikimasu. This is the standard way of converting the infinitive to the polite way. And then replace the imas here with emas. So it goes from iku to ikimasu to ikemasu. But the correct way really, to make sure you do this correctly, especially with hiraganas, especially with syllables such as su, which becomes te, and chi, better to go this way. So look on your hiragana chart and change the u at the end to eru. So iku becomes ikeru, and then change this to the polite form ikemasu. Bearing in mind that even though we start off with a group 1 verb, when we turn this into the potential form, this defaults into becoming like a group 2 verb. So to turn this into the polite form, the ru comes off completely and we put mas at the end. So iku, ikeru, ikemasu. Okay, so we spent some time doing tameni to talk about the purpose or benefit of. There is a kind of an alternative version of tameni which doesn't have the same regulations that tameni has, which is yoni, which means like or in order to be able to. In fact, yoni has got multiple uses, and we'll look at these much later on in the course. But for today, I'm going to talk about yoni, meaning in order to be able to. So when we did tameni, this was verb 1 or noun 1 and verb 2 or noun 2, indicating that you do verb 2 in order to achieve verb 1 with some directness and intentionality. If we put verb 1 into the potential form though, and then put verb 2, it indicates that you do verb 2 in order to be able to do verb 1, even if you don't actually do it. So the objective is verb 1, and then verb 2 is the action. Now, yoni, just stepping out of this particular type of yoni for a moment, can also be used to say to do something like something, which is why we have this like up here. For example, if you said Tanaka sensei no yoni chiburi shite kudasai, it means please do chiburi like Tanaka sensei does. Tanaka sensei no yoni chiburi shite kudasai. But let's not worry about this too much for now. We'll come on to this at a different time. And as I said, there are other uses of your, which vary by changing the surrounding particles, which we will study later. Now, whether you use tameni or yoni depends on both whether or not you are following the regulations of tameni, which means positive verb and the same subject, and also this kind of direct intentionality behind it as well. This is a feature of tameni, but you may choose to use yoni to talk about indirectiveness. So maybe you don't have complete control over the outcome. For example, you must step forwards in order to cut the neck. Now, I could do this in tameni, I could do this in yoni, but my choice will change the tone of the sentence. I will get up early in order to be able to go shopping tomorrow. I will study Chinese in order that I can work in a Chinese company. And I'm saving enough money to buy a car. So before we actually look at these, let's just quickly look at the construction. We don't generally have a noun before yoni in this particular case, but we would generally put the verb in either the potential form, or if you wanted this to be negative verb here, then that's why we would use yoni. We can't use tameni if the objective is negative. And then the activity we'll put as a verb. This has ni after it. So there's no particle between the verb and your at the beginning, but then after this we have ni. Now, this first one, you must step forwards in order to cut the neck. The question is, are we talking about direct intentionality and direct control? If we do, then maybe tameni is correct. But to put this into the yoni, to say to be able to cut the neck, we would say kubi ga kireru. Remember, this is the potential verb. So this kubi for neck needs to be put into ga, not o. Kubi ga kireru yo ni mae ni fuma nakareba narimasen. You must step forwards in order to be able to cut the neck. Get up early to go shopping tomorrow. Ashita kaimono suru tame ni hayame ni okimasu. Now, the reason why I put this in tameni is to say that you wouldn't really say this like you are not really going to go shopping, but you just want to be able to go shopping. This infers getting up early to go shopping tomorrow. So I'd probably choose tameni in this particular case. Just go back slightly. I will study Chinese in order that I can work in a Chinese company. Now, this isn't saying a particular Chinese company. It's not like the contract has been signed and you have a plan to go to China and work in this Chinese company next year. This is saying that you'd like to work in a Chinese company at some time in your life. So in order to be able to do that, you're going to study Chinese. It could be that you study and master Chinese and then never work in a Chinese company. But it's simply saying that in order that I could work in a Chinese company, I'm going to study Chinese. This is pushing you towards yoni, because even if you learn Chinese, it's not guaranteed that you're even going to be able to get a job in a Chinese company. So I would say, Chugoku no kaisha de shigoto ga dekiru you ni Chugoku go o benkyou shimasu. Last one. I'm saving enough money to buy a car. Now, if you actually have your eyes and your mind set on a particular car, you know how much it costs and you've got a schedule in place to save money and buy the car, this would be tameni. But if you are just thinking about having enough money to buy a car, even if you don't actually buy one, this would drive you down the road towards saying yoni. But in this case, I've said, in order to be able to buy a car, whether I buy one or not is not actually decided. Kuruma ga kaeru you ni okane o tamete imasu. I'm saving money. We'll jump over this one for a second. In fact, we're running out of time now. So before I go any further and start a subject that I can't finish, I'll stop here and say that I hope you found this useful, and I'll get more of these out a bit quicker in the future. Thanks very much for your attention to this.